So I was online last night and I was reading about various artists and video installations and painters and whatnot, and I got a bit carried away because I went until like 6 in the morning, 5:36 in the morning. And as I was going along, I started noticing I'm watching one of these artists. I forget his name, but he did a visual collage, this wonderful, beautiful, brilliant work of motion digital paintings that are projected during an Animal Collective concert, and Animal Collective uses his motion pictures to throw them up behind them on stage and all around the audience, and sometimes on the audience. And he also does this visual art for another band who I want to look into, Black Dice or something. Don't know much about them, but I want to look into them. He was just really quite brilliant, and I loved what he was doing, and I got this sense that he was confident. He was ultra confident. Gosh, in some ways it seems to be like a dime a dozen, but he was articulate and confident, and it almost, I started feeling like an agitated, angry child. I started getting angry, and I started feeling this tension, and oh, I just want to fucking put my fist through something, and I'm going, oh, it would be more funny than anything else if it wasn't just so strange and bizarre. I realize better now in this moment that I was perceiving his ability to talk about what he does with such skill, and I was doing a direct comparison to myself and how I don't really talk with that skill, or I haven't illuminated that part of me that is able to talk with that skill yet, because I haven't stepped forward in such an extent where I would be interviewed, or anyone would care to interview me about my art. And I worry sometimes. I worry that I just don't quite say the right things, or I don't, some people are very efficient at saying exactly precisely what their art is about and how they go about it and what their influences are and what space they occupy. And I'm busy, at least last night and a lot of the time, blaming myself for sounding confused and not being able to quite articulate the way this gentleman was articulating. And he had an air of arrogance about him that I could have been completely wrong about. He seemed like a cool guy. There was just there was a slight tad of arrogance, and I think that probably fed into it somewhat, because I'm so used to I worry that I don't communicate correctly a lot of the time, and then somebody like him would not be able to believe in what I'm doing. I think that's all a matter of circumstance. There's a lot you can get away with when you've accomplished something big in art and motion pictures than you can get away with if you are perceived as being nobody, or perceived as having not done these things. And I don't mean nobody like anyone who's not an artist. Nobody. I mean, literally. I mean, you go for your passion about the work, and you want to show people, and that was so beautifully illustrated in Marilyn Call. Am I pronouncing it? Oh my gosh, am I pronouncing it correctly? This documentary about this guy who was beaten outside of a bar in Kingston, New York, by 5 men. Marilyn Call. Yeah, Marilyn Call. This man was beaten outside of a bar in New York because he had said he was a cross-dresser. So these guys set him up and beat him up, and they did a number on him, and he has extensive brain damage. But he's come a long way in recuperating, and mainly because he's created this fictional world called Marilyn Call, in which he photographs action figures in this town, Marilyn Call, that I think is that he places in Belgium, and it's this fictionalized this world, this beautiful world with these action figures, and he's taken real people from town and put them in Marilyn Call. He's in this town. He didn't want to be alone, so he went out, and anyone he met and talked to, he said, "I'll make you a doll, and you'll be part of my town." He goes, "I want my friends to be there. I don't want to just be alone in this town." He goes, "Often I feel alone," and I'm going, this is just so fucking beautiful. I mean, this, it really, it made me cry at times, and it was just wonderful. And Mark Hogenkamp, that's the name of the gentleman. He's such a beautiful guy. And he's so beautiful because he's able to take this tragic circumstance with all his hate he has and channel it into art, and in his art, and create this world, and use his imagination, and bring something into existence. And God knows, if I were in his circumstance, I would have a lot of trouble not killing the men who attacked me, which would be unfortunate, because I would be robbing myself of peace and happiness, and I would be robbing everyone who loves and cares about me of peace and happiness to some large extent. Anyway, so I could relate to it very, very much. So I could relate to his story and what he's done. And at the end of the documentary, he goes to show his work in New York City, which he lives in New York. It's only about 100 miles away, but it's still a big decision for him. He's going to share this precious world that he's created, and it's very beautiful because he makes the decision to go, and he shows at this gallery, and he's very insecure and very, just not certain how to talk to people, and but it's beautiful to watch him grow and progress and be able to do that, and he does. Present his work, and there's the 35 millimeter photographs he takes of this town and the dolls. They refer to as dolls. They remind me more of like G.I. Joe action figures, but they're more like dolls, I think. You see these beautiful photographs. He's set up, and he's got the SS officers and women and men in tights, himself in tights as one of the action figures, and oh boy, I'm spoiling it. I'm kind of haphazardly spoiling the documentary. Don't listen to that part. But the SS figure into it, and it really makes you think. And so I was so proud at the end of him to see that he was able to go present his art. So there's that factor in a lot of what I'm doing. I feel like it's been a long journey, and I'm proud and I'm glad that I've come to a place where I do feel more at peace than I ever have before, barring last night. Last night was an exception. I haven't felt that kind of anger, and I used to feel that kind of anger frequently. And it's kind of this childish jealousy, really, but it doesn't really, to be more clear, it's not jealousy as much as it is this recognition that if I don't give myself the opportunity and I don't keep trying and moving forward, it's not just going to happen. A pile of roses and gold aren't going to land on my face. And so I just want to step outside of my box a little bit more often. I don't think there's anything wrong with really diving in and studying art on the internet. I think filling your mind with a vast array of knowledge can be very useful, especially when you're a writer, and it's refreshing. It's just there's not enough can be said about it. I just feel like I think the upcoming immediate goal needs to be stepping forward more.